Hi guys, it's Debbie with Debbie J's Crafting Corner. Today we're going to be playing with the Clear Stampin' Die of the Month. This is Friendship Garden, and this is the Clear Stampin' Die of the Month for April 2023. So we've got this lovely bunch of flowers and some cool sentiments, and of course, dies to go with everything. So I'm going to go ahead and just get started by stamping out this main flower bundle here. And to do that, I'm going to use my Misty. I've already got a couple of card panels cut out of some white, I believe it's accent opaque white cardstock. So I'm just going to put that right down into the edge there, and then place my flowers on here. Now I'm not 100% sure, as usually, how I'm going to do this. So let's go ahead and stamp that out. And I think what I want to do today, let's see if I can do something a little bit different. I'm going to start off by stamping this one out and doing some clear embossing. So I'm going to stamp it out in some Versafine Clair black ink, and I'm going to emboss it with my clear wow embossing powder. So first I'm going to put my card panel down into the corner, and I'm going to cover my stamp with some Versafine Clair Nocturn ink. And then let's brayer that down. That looks pretty good, but there is one section that is not stamped well yet, so I'm going to add some more ink. Make sure this is still in the corner, and then we can stamp down on that. I'm going to focus on that area that didn't seem to want to cover as well. Okay, I'm going to say that that is good enough. And next I'm going to cover this with some clear embossing powder. And one reason why I like using the clear embossing powder is that it makes it so much easier to use than the black embossing powder. Let's just put it that way. Black embossing powder, when you put it down over clear, like your clear ink, to get those really crisp, pretty lines that we like for these, one of the reasons you use the black embossing powder. It also means that a lot of times the embossing powder flakes everywhere on your card, so it goes places that you don't want it. When you use white embossing powder, or rather clear embossing powder, over your black ink, you don't have to worry about that, because if any of the embossing powder goes somewhere you don't want it, it's going to be clear. You're not going to see it. Let's go ahead and heat that up. And that looks just lovely. So next I'm going to color this one up using my alcohol markers. Now, one thing you do want to take into consideration when you're doing something like this is the tips of your markers. If you run them over embossed lines too much, it can damage your nibs. I've never had a problem with it, so I'm going to still go with it. I've had these markers also for about 3 years, I think. So not really as concerned about damaging them after as much wear as I've given them. I don't really want to, you know, mess anything up, but I don't really think I'm going to have a problem. One thing that is real nice about embossed lines, it does help you keep color on the inside, especially if you're doing anything like watercoloring. These are so fine though that it may not be the best option for me. For this green, I'm just adding, mostly for the larger leaves, I'm adding the color towards the base and then coming out from the leaves, and then I'm going to go back in with a lighter color. So I'm using AG4 and AG2 for my coloring on these. For the little leaves, I'm pretty much coloring them the entire way with the AG4. Okay, it looks like I've got all of the dark green done. I'll come back in with my AG2, which is the lighter. And there's enough black because of those black embossed lines that it probably doesn't matter all that much. The colors are going to be a little bit darker, but I still think that this is going to give it a nice look. And ever since I learned a little bit about blending years ago, I can't help it. I have to do a little bit of blending and shadows and such with pretty much everything I color. Okay, so those are done. Now we can start working on some of our flowers. So for my flowers, I'm going to be using some of these out of the PP family. It's PP3 as the lightest, and then PP5. So I'm going to start off. Each of these have got a center. I think I'm going to actually do the center in a yellow. That'll be kind of cool. So I'm going to start off with the base though for these in this darker pink, and just do a flick up from the bottom, and have a little bit of one around the edge where the separated petals are. I think I'm going to do that with all of these little guys. So we've got a lot of little buds, and then we've got some little blooms. And then come in around the inside of these, because we've also got the petals showing from the other side, and give them a little bit of that dark color too. Okay, so we've got a bunch of that PP5, that darker pink. Now we're going to come back in with the lighter pink. That's going to give it a little bit of a highlight and to make it so that the bases look darker and give it a little bit of dimension. Also going over at least part of that darker shade, and that helps to blend the two colors together so we don't have a harsh line between them. Okay, and then as I'm going through all of this, I did notice that there are a couple of leaves that I missed, so I'm going to go back in and do those real quick. Now then I'm going to also come back in with that darker pink and add a little bit more depth in a couple of places, just because I think it needs a little bit more. Mostly around the bases of each of my flowers. Give it a little bit more shadow. And I think that that is pretty much done. It was a real quick coloring. All I need now is just a little bit of that yellow, and I'm going to use this golden yellow, which is the GY1, for the stamen and seed pod area of each of my flowers, right in the center of each of them, including these other ones. So I think that looks pretty good. So next I'm going to go ahead and die cut this out. So I've got the die for that big image taped down right outside of the image. I've got my Platinum 6 and my Magic Mat. Always use my Magic Mat. It has definitely made my plates last a lot longer. So now I'm going to just crank that on through. And that cut out perfectly. I love it. There's also a second, actually a second and third die. One that'll cut out this flower bit if you want to, and one that'll cut out this little flower if you want to. So you could use those individually or layer them up. I'm going to actually just use this entire image for my card today. Okay, so for my sentiment, what I decided to do is to use this banner die, banner stamp rather, that is included in this the stamp and die of the month. And so I went ahead and stamped out a couple, and I've already die cut them out, but I don't have a sentiment on them yet. So what I'm going to do, and I did this intentionally, I'm going to put them back in place. Take that back. I've got a couple of sentiments that I might want to use. I've got happy birthday to you. So I can go ahead and center that right there. And this means you can do these little strips. You can do them, you can do lots of them all at once. Pick that up. Now I can put my die cut shape in. I've already stamped and heat embossed with that same Versafine Clair ink and clear embossing powder on both of them. Just double checking, making sure that is where I want it. Looks like it's a little bit crooked. Place that down one more time. And I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to do 2 of them just as happy birthday. I could do them as separate, but I want to show you how you can do this as a basically for mass producing. So we're going to go ahead and stamp this one up. Add the ink, stamp it down. I am going to also use my paperweight where I put it somewhere. My paperweight to burnish it down, so hopefully it won't shift or need additional ink. So it does need a little bit more ink. So I'm going to add a little bit more ink there. Make sure it stays in that corner. Stamp it again. Which is why we love the Misty, right? And now I can take that little guy out. So I decided to use this panel. This one is a panel that I made using last month's embossing folder of the month. And it is super pretty. And it's got a little bit of inking done on there using some Catherine Pooler, all that jazz. And then a blue card base. I think that's going to be really, really nice behind our pink flowers. I'm also going to do foam as usual. I'm going to go ahead and layer everything up on some foam. So I'm going to go ahead and put down some foam tape to the back of my card panel. And this does help, even if it wasn't for the dimension, which of course I love the dimension, this does help it to stick better whenever you're using an embossed panel like this. So we've got dry embossing here and we've got heat embossing there, and that's going to look so nice together. And I like this blue background, this light blue background behind my flowers. Kind of gives it the illusion of a little bit of a sky, but it also has that nice texture. So I'm going to go ahead and place that one right down, and we're going to leave about 1/4 inch all the way around, which is one reason why I trimmed it down to the size that I did. So there we go. I'm going to put some more foam behind my flowers. And I'm able to use a couple of different layers of foam like that because this is a real thin foam. The foam is only about an 1/8 of an inch. Actually, it's a 1/16 of an inch thick. So that means it doesn't cause too much problems with going through the mail. I've never had any issue with it. The only time you might have an issue with it going through the mail is if your card turns out to be too thick. The final product, and this is only going to be adding about an 1/8 of an inch total to the thickness of my card. So I'm going to go ahead and just place that kind of in the middle. Press that down. That looks good. I think I am going to go with the foam because this, I placed my flowers high enough up. There is still that extra room down at the bottom, and my foam tape is pretty much exactly the size of, or the width of that banner, so it's going to fit perfect. Okay, so just going to line that up right down here at the bottom. And that's going to finish up this card. So be sure to check out this playlist over here to see more projects where I'm using Spellbinders products. And you guys have a great day. Remember, if I can make it, you can too. Talk to you soon.